In 2019, archaeologists in Norway's Stavanger region made a shocking discovery in a runic inscription that revealed a startling truth. Ragnar Lothbrok had a special pact with the gods, but what they found next would change everything we thought we knew about Viking history. And the price Ragnar paid for this power was more horrifying than anyone imagined. This pact made him different from all other Viking kings and contained one of the deepest secrets of Norse mythology, a secret that explains why Ragnar's story ended the way it did. In the 8th and 9th centuries, countless powerful Viking kings ruled Scandinavia. Harald Fairhair united Norway, Ragnar's contemporary Horik controlled Denmark, Eric Bloodaxe gained infamy through his brutality. Each was powerful, each was brave, each was supposedly favoured by the gods, or so we thought. Because Norse mythology and saga accounts tell us a very different story. In these tales, Ragnar Lothbrok appears not just as a king, but as a specially chosen vessel by the gods. But the price of this pact was something Ragnar never expected. Odin's plan was much darker, and at the centre of this plan lay not only Ragnar's power, but the fate of his entire bloodline. Because behind the Allfather's choice of Ragnar lay the preparations for Ragnarok itself. And what I'm about to tell you will reveal the true reason why Ragnar had to die. But first, you need to understand exactly how the gods chose him. Vikings! If you believe Ragnar's divine power was real, click that red shield button, support this story with the power of Mjolnir, and join our Viking clan for more legendary tales. In Norse mythology, Odin the Allfather was not just the god of knowledge and war, he was also the strategist who shaped destiny. Preparing for the great battle he knew was coming, knowing that Ragnarok was approaching, Odin needed warriors with special abilities. Ragnar Lothbrok's divine selection manifested in three fundamental qualities. First, Ragnar's intuitive wisdom. According to records in the Völuspá, Ragnar could see future events as if they were unfolding before him when making strategic decisions on the battlefield. This ability was far more than ordinary tactical genius. The saga of Ragnar Lothbrok states, Ragnar knew his enemy's move before the enemy had even thought it. Second, Ragnar's fearlessness beyond courage. While courage was an important value in Viking culture, Ragnar possessed something that transcended this. He had a supernatural ability to flirt with death. According to saga records, Ragnar would prepare for the most dangerous expeditions as if he were going to a feast. Third, and most importantly, Ragnar's understanding of sacrifice. Odin himself had sacrificed his eye for knowledge. Ragnar showed a similar spirit of sacrifice. Family, comfort, security. He could risk all of these for a greater purpose. But there was something else about Ragnar's sacrifice that the sagas don't openly discuss. Something that would only become clear at the moment of his death. And this brings us to the first sign that Odin was actively watching Ragnar. The strongest evidence of Ragnar's divine connection was the ravens that constantly appeared around him. In Norse mythology, Hugin and Munin travelled the world as Odin's eyes and ears. The unusual presence of these ravens in Ragnar's adventures is consistently emphasised. In Gesta Danorum, Saxo Grammaticus records, when Ragnar's ship set sail, the sky would fill with ravens, as if they too were part of the expedition. This was not merely a poetic expression. Archaeological evidence supports this as well. In 2011, unusual raven bone deposits were found in graves at a Ragnar-era burial site discovered in Denmark. Raven bones are rarely seen in normal Viking burials because ravens are considered scavenger birds. However, at this site, ravens had been buried with honour and respect. The second sign of Ragnar's divine connection was his meteorological awareness. According to saga records, Ragnar could predict storms and weather patterns. This ability was crucial for navigation, but Ragnar's ability was far more advanced than normal seamanship. Ragnar's weather prophecy. Anecdote. The saga of Ragnar Lothbrok tells this story. While Ragnar and his warriors were returning from a raid, they were sailing under clear skies. Ragnar suddenly changed the ship's course and said these words, Odin has shown me that a great storm will come in 3 days. We must reach the sheltered bay. His warriors were initially skeptical because the weather was perfect. However, exactly 3 days later, a historically recorded great storm hit the Kattegat. While Ragnar's fleet was safely sheltered, many other ships were destroyed. But this was just the beginning of Ragnar's supernatural abilities. What happened next would prove that Odin's influence went far beyond weather prediction, and it involved the most feared warriors in all of Viking history. A study published in the Journal of Sleep Research found that when modern subjects were exposed to natural light cycles without artificial lighting for just 1 week, their sleep patterns rapidly synchronized with sunset and sunrise, and melatonin production increased by 30%. The Vikings lived their entire lives under such conditions, suggesting they likely experienced consistently optimal melatonin production. The most mysterious aspect of Ragnar's divine connection was his relationship with Berserker warriors. Berserkers were not ordinary Viking warriors. They were special servants of Odin, supernatural beings who fought with divine rage. Ragnar's army had an unusual concentration of Berserkers. Other Viking leaders might have 1 or 2 Berserkers, but entire Berserker units fought in Ragnar's forces. This was not a random coincidence. Berserker initiation rituals. Archaeological evidence and saga accounts show that Ragnar's Berserkers underwent special initiation rituals. In these rituals, participants received a part of Odin's divine essence. The ritual proceeded as follows. The candidate Berserker would fast for 3 days. Then they would consume Amanita muscaria mushrooms. These mushrooms cause spiritual visions. In the vision state, the Berserker would communicate directly with Odin. Ragnar would personally supervise these rituals. According to saga records, Ragnar's presence would strengthen the ritual. The Berserkers would see more intense visions, and their divine rage would be more powerful. The Great Berserker Transformation. The most famous example was the events during Ragnar's raid on Northumberland. In this raid, Ragnar's Berserkers transformed into a literally unstoppable force. English chronicles write, "The Viking Berserkers fought as if they were demons. Wounds could not stop them. They felt no pain." Modern research has found psychological and biochemical explanations for Berserker rage, but the performance of Ragnar's Berserkers was much more extreme than normal Berserker behaviour. This was the direct result of his divine connection. But the Berserkers were just one part of Odin's plan for Ragnar. The real power lay in something far more mysterious, something that would allow Ragnar to see the future itself. Tell us in the comments, Vikings, which Norse god would you want to gain power from? Odin's wisdom, Thor's strength, or Freya's magic? Let's meet at Valhalla's gates and share your powers. The most profound aspect of Ragnar's divine connection was his prophetic dreams. These dreams were not random visions, but contained strategic guidance. Odin would influence Ragnar's decisions by showing him future events. The Great Prophetic Dream. The most significant dream, detailed in the saga of Ragnar Lothbrok, was as follows. One night, Ragnar saw a huge serpent in his dream. This serpent surrounded all of Britain. Ragnar's task was to defeat this serpent, but doing so required great sacrifice. The interpretation of the dream became clear over time. The serpent symbolized England's defences. Ragnar's Britain raids took direct inspiration from this vision. However, the sacrifice part later transformed into tragic reality. Divine strategic guidance. Ragnar's military decisions were often against conventional wisdom, but were consistently successful. Behind this success was divine guidance. Odin would show Ragnar enemy movements, weather patterns, and political situations in advance. Example, Ragnar's famous raid on Paris. Conventional strategy would have been to attack Paris directly because the city walls were strong. However, Ragnar chose a different approach. He attacked from an unexpected route using the Seine River. Behind this strategy was a divine vision. Before the Paris raid, Ragnar had this dream. Odin showed him a great eagle. The eagle followed the river's flow to reach the city's heart. Ragnar transformed this vision into a tactical plan. But this wasn't just about military strategy. Every vision, every dream, every divine intervention was building towards something much bigger, something that would require the ultimate sacrifice. And that's when Odin's true plan began to reveal itself. But behind Odin's choice of Ragnar lay a darker purpose. In Norse mythology, Odin knew that Ragnarök was inevitable. The gods would be defeated in this final battle. Odin's strategy was to collect powerful warriors in Valhalla. The tragic destiny. The ultimate purpose of Ragnar's divine connection was his heroic death. Odin had made Ragnar powerful, but at the same time had sealed his destiny. Ragnar's death would cause a chain reaction, and his sons would form the great heathen army. This army would devastate England and send countless warriors to Valhalla. This was part of Odin's master plan. Ragnar's sacrifice served a greater purpose. The Snake Pit Prophecy. According to saga records, Ragnar's death was also predicted through divine vision. Odin had shown Ragnar that he would die in a snake pit, but at the same time had revealed the meaning of this death. Ragnar's death would immortalize his legend. In his final moments in the snake pit, Ragnar's last words were, "How the young pigs would grunt if they knew what the old boar suffers." These words were not just a message to his sons, but the fulfillment of divine prophecy. The continuing divine plan. After Ragnar's death, the divine plan continued. Ivar the Boneless, Bjorn Ironside, and his other sons inherited their father's divine connection. The great heathen army's success was the continuation of Ragnar's divine legacy, but there's something about Ragnar's death that most people don't understand. Something that proves his divine connection was real until the very end, and when you learn what it is, you'll never look at his story the same way again. Ragnar Lothbrok's selection by the gods was not a random event. This was a carefully orchestrated part of a cosmic plan. Behind Odin's choice of Ragnar lay the preparations for Ragnarok and divine strategy. Modern research may debate Ragnar's historical existence, but his cultural impact is undeniable. Ragnar's story survived in Norse culture as the perfect example of divine selection. The ultimate question, was Ragnar really chosen by the gods? Historical evidence and saga accounts show patterns that go beyond ordinary explanations. Ragnar's achievements required much more than luck or skill. The divine connections we explored in this video explain why Ragnar's legend differs from other Viking kings. He was not just a powerful warrior, but a crucial part of a cosmic plan. Final reflection. Ragnar Lothbrok's story shows us that some individuals are destined to shape history. In Ragnar's case, this destiny was guided by divine intervention. Odin's choice changed the entire trajectory of the Norse world. The reason Ragnar's legend has survived to this day is not his extraordinary humanity, but the eternal nature of his divine connection. As the god's chosen vessel, he transcended mortality and transformed into an immortal legend. And here's what will shock you the most. The archaeological evidence suggests that Ragnar's divine connection didn't end with his death. It was passed down through his bloodline in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. If you want to be of Ragnar's bloodline, hit that red subscribe rune. Join our Viking clan and discover more legendary stories. Share this story with other Vikings. Let Ragnar's legend be heard throughout the 9 realms. And remember, our next epic journey will take you deeper into the divine bloodline of the Norse kings. The supernatural powers that run through Ragnar's legacy will leave you speechless. This story shows that power doesn't come only from human ambition. Sometimes divine forces directly intervene in the mortal world. Ragnar Lothbrok is the most powerful example of this divine intervention.